all our viewers right now, especially the youth in Munyonyo attending the 3rd APRM meeting that is happening in Munyonyo, and specifically to our ambassador, the High Commissioner, Uganda's High Commissioner in Addis Ababa and Djibouti, and our permanent representative at the African Union, Mama Rebecca Amuge Otengo, who actually is part of the conversation this morning. She thought she would make it here, but of course she can't be here because the Vice President is supposed to go and be part of the youth in Munyonyo. To all of you, thank you so much for choosing to be with us, and welcome. Now today we get into a very good conversation that I think we've longed for quite a very long time. And joining us in studios, I'll start with a very special guest today, the Ambassador Dr. Ziza Ponare Mlima, and he is the High Commissioner, Tanzania's High Commissioner to Uganda. Karibu Daktari Aziz Mlima.
Nashukuru, asante sana.
Thank you very much for joining us here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Hapa ni nyumbani.
Asante sana.
Baraka. Well, together with Ambassador Mlima is, of course, the usual Pan-African panelists or team, Ndugu James Mtuta. Karibu.
Asante sana. Nashukuru kuona
Are you Mtuta from Kenya or Mtuta? Because I think Mtuta name is too much of a Kenyan name.
It's across.
Actually, I live in Tanzania.
Even in Tanzania?
Yeah.
There are Mtutas in Tanzania?
Exactly.
Okay.
So now you are looking at East Africa when you are looking at me.
Oh. By just looking at you and seeing East Africa, maybe they could even be in Congo, who knows, when we
apparently, yeah. At Congo.
At Congo. We could have some Mtutas in Congo.
Yes.
Karibu. Tena Rugarama.
Rugarama also cuts across.
Even Rugarama?
Yes, I want to believe. Some of these names are widely shared.
Yeah, sure.
It goes as far as even Zambia. It is certainly in Rwanda. It is in Tanzania. So generally speaking, one can confidently say that in so far, the countries where Kiswahili as the language is spoken, that name is likely to be found there. I know about 5 countries which are not necessarily within the East African bloc where the name is found. But I'm glad that we are debating this topic, and I'm very happy to see our High Commissioner, His Excellency the Ambassador, visiting us in the studios, and I believe that we are going to do justice to this particular subject for the benefit of the audience.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll start with you, Ambassador Aziz Mlima. Very welcome, Your Excellency. We thank you so much again for having allowed to join us here. And of course, we are talking about a day that we celebrated yesterday. Right. Yesterday was the first time that we celebrated the World Kiswahili Language Day. Right. And this day, of course, was passed, or the resolution was passed in November 2021. And we now have Kiswahili. It also comes at a time when, in the country, Cabinet just approved and said we now need to make Kiswahili a compulsory and an examinable subject in our schools. It's come, of course, with a mixed reactions and feelings. Many years ago, when many of us were still young, there was a debate over making Kiswahili in this country a national language. And the legislators of that time and the people, the policymakers of that time said, no, we can't make Kiswahili because Kiswahili is actually a rogue language. Because those who want to terrorize you use Kiswahili. Toa pesa, kaa chini, fanya hivi, toa mkanda, kuja huku, you know. So they only got which of course are in every language. And they said, no. Anybody wants to steal from you, fungua mlango, kaa chini. Later pesa, then they said, no, we can't make that an official language. But of course, many years later, we now just discover that we as a people need a lingua franca for ourselves. And of course, it is what it is. We know that when you talk about Kiswahili, Tanzania takes the lead to all of us in as far as Kiswahili is concerned. Let's delve in the issues of Kiswahili before we even actually know whether having Kiswahili as one of our languages will help us move from where we are to where we should be.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me start off with removing the misconception about Kiswahili that it's a language used by the people to terrorize others. That's not true. If we look at Kiswahili in the United Republic of Tanzania, it's the language which has managed to unify people. Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, during the time when he was fighting for independence of Tanganyika, he managed to unify or to unite more than 120 tribes in Tanzania, in Tanganyika in particular at that time. And based on Kiswahili, we managed to get our independence peacefully. We didn't have to carry a gun to be independent. So Kiswahili is a peaceful language. That's one. Because if it was the way it has been perceived, probably we could have, instead of taking up using Kiswahili for diplomacy to get our independence, we could actually use Kiswahili to fight the British at that time who used to colonize, or they had that responsibility under the UN to supervise the colony, or not the colony, the trusteeship of Tanganyika. But Kiswahili was used to unite people, but also to make sure that we got a peaceful independence. That is one. The second aspect of Kiswahili is a language which most of the freedom fighters within the African continent, especially southern of Sahara, and in particular in Southern Africa, they used Kiswahili for their training. If you talk about Mozambique, for example, the first people to use Kiswahili were the freedom fighter members of Frelimo. And the president, first of all, was Eduardo Mondlane, who died in Dar es Salaam, I think back in 1969, somewhere there. Then the President Joaquim Chissano, Samora Machel, and so many others who were in Tanzania, including General Chipande, the guy who shot the first bullet to stage for the independence of Mozambique. He was living in Tanzania, trained in Tanzania, and they used Kiswahili because, Tanzania doesn't speak Portuguese. And the guys from Mozambique couldn't speak English, so Kiswahili was used to unite everybody, to train everybody to be able to fight for the independence. So that is a language of liberation. Sure. And it is also a language of uniting people, because you could unite 120 tribes of Tanganyika, then it managed to unite Tanganyika and Zanzibar because of Kiswahili. Then we had the union in 1964. But apart from that, we could unite people who doesn't speak, who didn't speak any Kiswahili, and we couldn't speak any Portuguese, but the language was used, and these people could work together, and achieve what they wanted to achieve at that particular time. So Kiswahili is a very interesting language, and it is so far spoken around the world by more than 500 million people, but within East Africa, within African continent, it's about 200 million people. But you have people speaking Kiswahili in countries like Sultanate of Oman, but also you have people speaking Kiswahili as far as Yemen. And I think around the world, in all the top universities, in the Department of African and Oriental Studies and the Department of Linguistics, you find Kiswahili as one of the subjects. And I think in the US and European universities, more than 150 universities are teaching Kiswahili. And if you look at China, which now Kiswahili have become very popular, it's a language which you find in most of top universities in China. So it will be very interesting to find that all other people are speaking Kiswahili, and the people who are founders and the founders of East African community, and where the language is born, here from Uganda, can't speak Kiswahili. And I think what you said regarding the missed opportunity, I can put it that way, that during your early days, the government had the policy to teach Kiswahili, but then it was not implemented. You know, President Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, decided in 1970 that, you know, we are not British, we are Kenyans, and we should speak Kiswahili. That was the decision he made in 1970. And since then, you know, generation after generation, now in Kenya, 100% people, I mean, 100% of population speak Kiswahili. Yes. And most of the Kenyan professors, they've written a lot of books, and they are teaching in various universities in Europe and other places. There are Kenyans who are, you know, radio producers, TV announcers, in various media outlets around the world. Same here in Uganda. The people who took up Kiswahili, like yourself, Akol, and I think Siraji Kiriango. Kariango, yes. Those are the people who decided to take that language, and you know, they are now working in, I mean, they are capable to work anywhere in the world. Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Dr. Mlima, Tanzania's High Commissioner here in Uganda. Tunakushukuru sana, and of course for that very good and elaborate introduction to what we're discussing this morning. We want to look at, of course, this language called Kiswahili, and Ndugu Rugarama, let me hear your thoughts, first and foremost, on just away from celebrating the language, that yes, we have the language, away from just celebrating the language, how best can we use this language? Because from the statistics and from what Ambassador Mlima here shares or gives to us, in Tanzania, of course, 101% everybody speaks Kiswahili. When you go to Kenya, they speak Kiswahili. When you look at how many people globally that speak this language called Kiswahili, of course, you can actually tell that it's a language. His only pain, which is our own pain, is where Kiswahili is actually born, is where we have neglected it, but others are taking it on. But away from just celebrating and saying, okay, we have a day, for example, 7 June every year. Now, we had the celebrations yesterday. For us who care to know what actually happened, many Ugandans could be just hearing news that actually this thing happened. And they'll wait for the 7th July next year, which will also come and go, and we'll continue celebrating and just say this is another day that we celebrate in the world, like we celebrate all these many United Nations days. What more to it that we can actually use this language of Kiswahili to develop the continent of Africa and the people of Africa?
Thank you so much, Ndugu Jagenda, and good morning once again to our dear viewers. You see, when the international community comes up like it has, and recognizes a language in the manner in which Kiswahili has been recognized, you must ask yourself, why? Because I want to believe that there are other languages like on the African continent, that is, like the Hausa, like the Igbo,
the Fulani.
Like the Fulani, the Zulu, probably
the Hausa, the African.
Yes, which are spoken by well over 200 people. But you see the concentration, 200 million people, that is. But the concentration is that, for instance, you find the Zulus, they are in South Africa.
And maybe Southern Africa.
Yes, that lower part of the geographical description. But Kiswahili as a language, and I hope at a later stage the ambassador will take us through the development and the history of that particular language, where I have been interesting myself, and I get some of the history that the genesis is around the Lam Island. I don't know if that has been interrogated seriously to ascertain as to whether that is the truth. But I am also aware that it developed as a consequence of the intersection of the Arab and the Bantu who were coming into intercourse because of the trade. And around there, also there came the slave trade, and and that because there were Arabs who were Muslims, then the majority that started using Kiswahili, which has about 30 or so % Arabic in it, also converted majority of them into Islam. Now all that is part of what surrounds this Kiswahili as a language. But suffice to also note the following, that when you look at Kiswahili being spoken by, like my senior brother, the ambassador, correctly observed, close to 200 people who are spread, because currently, I think we are talking about 16 African countries, about that. 16 African countries, that 14? Okay. Using Kiswahili as a language. We are talking about a growing East African bloc. And with the adoption of recently inclusion of DRC, which I have learned this morning that has Kiswahili as the national language. I don't know how that one came about.
The DRC?
Yeah, DRC.
With the so many languages, there is Lingala, French.
No, the national language is Kiswahili. I was trying to, maybe one of them.
Maybe one of them.
Maybe one of them is Kiswahili.
DRC speaks Kiswahili.
Yes.
Eastern part of
yes.
Okay. So when 50% speak the language, then
so you are overthrown. You are taken. You have to follow suit.
Exactly.
So you see, therefore, when that happens, and then you go to at international level, you have got BBC having a program, full news bulletin, radio Doc Vera, all of them having Kiswahili, and within that language, being able to comment and inform the world in that particular language. I think it becomes very critical, therefore, for us to say, wait a minute, this is a language that we need to think even harder and adopt for the benefit, because it is, from the Pan-African point of view, a language that is homegrown, because clearly you can see that Kiswahili is a homegrown language. It is an opportunity to run away from what has always held us as Africans, where even up to now, like my brother, Comrade Julius Marema says, we are constantly fighting that we are Lusophone, Francophone, Anglophone, and that's what defines us. Why? That is language. The first point of description of any people is the ability to communicate. Now, if we can, therefore, adopt Kiswahili as a means of communication, even for expression, even at the level of feel good, but we know for a fact that, of course, this is a language that would promote trade better. It is a language that would promote science and innovation, technology better. But even at the point of we are Africans, and this is a language that we can easily identify ourselves with and express ourselves in it, the feel-good effect itself is important. Because how many people are Germans? How many are they in numbers? And why should we be having German as a language being spoken almost everywhere, and at the UN and other international fora, and us Africans also using that kind of language? it is in an effort to, it's not actually an effort, it shows you that they have the might. There is something that we need from them constantly, and we must adopt their language in order to keep in touch with them. Like we are having Mandarin now. You go to our universities, our professor, Professor Senior Pioro has predicted that if we are not careful, Mandarin, which people call Chinese, which is now deliberately being introduced in majority of our universities, and scholarships are being given to that effect. You know, you perform after attaining a certain performance, competitions are organized, the language is incorporated in the language department of majority, because it is here at Makerere University. I was checking. I want to believe it is also in Dar es Salaam. It is must be in Nairobi and other universities. So the point we are making really here is that, so what? Kiswahili, so what? Yes, Kiswahili, so that we can drive the Pan-African agenda. Kiswahili, so that we can have better trade relations amongst ourselves. Kiswahili, so that we can have the feel-good impact about ourselves as Africans. Kiswahili, so that we can enhance the agenda of decolonizing ourselves from these foreign languages. Kiswahili, so that we can build cohesion within and amongst ourselves. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, to our viewers, we're carrying on with the conversation of the Kiswahili language as our African language. Ndugu Mtuta, come to the conversation now. You'll notice that the cultural power of African elites, or the African elite brand, is judged or based on speaking pre-colonial colonial languages. We even tend to think that if you actually speak English in the house, then you're actually middle class. That's how we even judge ourselves, of how we think development has come to us by speaking very good English, etc., etc. We do not know of many countries in the world, and I don't know of any country in the world that has developed in a foreign language. Countries that have progressed basing on a borrowed language. When we talk about the languages that we speak on the continent, for example, you look at the African continent, we have about 4 or 5, but predominantly 3 languages that we speak on the continent: English, French, and I think Portuguese. Now, only 10% of a population of 1.2 billion people, only 10% of those speak very fluent English or French or Portuguese and even understand it. Now, the languages that we want to use for development are known by the minority. What needs to be done? He just talked about Mandarin, that Chairman Mao Zedong in China decided so many languages, about 50+ languages, that they were all put away and just remain with this one language called Mandarin. Now, when you go to China, you interact with a population of 1.3 billion people. All of them speak the same language. And we can't be surprised that a country like China, which is much, much, much smaller than many African countries, is actually one of the biggest powers that we all run to for salvation here and there. They speak the same language, and that's how they manage to go on. They are now actually exporting their own language. What needs to be done to ensure that this vanguard population of 1 billion+ people can also have a language that we can use, like you say, to trade amongst ourselves, to all the things too, and have these other languages as English, rather English, Portuguese, for UN meetings, etc., etc. What needs to be done?
You know, the elites of Africa want to speak a lot of English, which is okay. And also sometimes we, other than speaking the English, we have also now gone ahead to even get the accent so that we can speak it very well. And that has been sometimes a problem. You see people struggling. Now, until I got to meet people from Italy, from Sweden, from Portugal, and which other countries, this is when I realized, because when you see a Mzungu, you do expect them to speak English.
Exactly.
But after you meet some of these guys, you realize they even don't know English because they don't need it anyway. Now, the issue of language is a very strong component of life. For people who read the Bible, we are told of the Tower of Babel.
In Genesis chapter 11.
Exactly. That God looked at people and he saw that these guys were actually determined. And in himself said, these guys, there's nothing that's going to stop them from achieving what they want.
Actually, God said, none can stop their plan.
Exactly.
They had a plan and nobody could stop their plan because they were determined. And the only way to disorganize the plan was to destabilize language. Yeah, destabilize language.
So language is something that is so mighty that with whichever plan you have, as long as people have the same language, by having the same language, it means that you're also thinking at the same pace. Things are moving so fast. And that is what we need to look at, especially for Africa. If we are to move at a pace that we need to move, then the issue of language has to be addressed. Like I put it, 14 countries in Africa speaking the same, they're speaking Swahili. And you see that those countries where Swahili is spoken as a major language, I think there is that move faster. When you look at the life in Tanzania, in Kenya, in now Uganda, and some of these other countries, because spoken as the Comoros and Djibouti and those other countries, you find the business, especially because that's where it starts, that people can easily communicate with each other, they can learn each other, the issues of technology can easily be enhanced. So that is for Africa. Now, some people, like you put it, have been saying that Swahili has been used by rogues. They have no idea how English has been used by rogues. Because the same English that was used to rob Africa for its population and slave trade, they were even, when taken to those countries, were forced to learn English and also adopt English names. That Jagenda, you now belong to Sam Smith because he's the one who has bought you. Yes. And we now even, in fact, if Africans were serious, would not be using some of these names actually, because they are an abuse. And then you look at issues of how we have been abused economically, even in religion, because of the language. So it is important that Africans, for once, need to sit down and say, let's look at what brings us together, like the wrote that they put the knife on the things that held us together and were falling apart. One way of making people fall apart is to disorganize them with the language. Because people can no longer speak the same language, it means they cannot look at things in the same manner, and that means even the way they approach issues definitely change. So I think as Africans, it's important that we look at this language. And the good thing with the Swahili, it is already on the rise. We look at, of course, in Congo, like he put it, they have French as the national, as the official language, but they have the Chiruba, the Chikongo, then they have Swahili, and yes, as the national languages. So I think the good thing is that we learn English because we want to look sophisticated, and we believe that by speaking the Swahili is now looks at as a local language. But like he put it, like in Kenya, from a university lecturer to an oldie Mama Mboga, they are speaking the same language. And then the level of interaction and the time of doing business, whichever business you are doing, is faster than one speaks this, then he says, anasema nini, then the other one has to interpret, animaanisha nini. So it becomes a bit tricky. But once people are speaking the same language, life becomes easy. And Swahili, I think, is the language, because, and the good thing with the Swahili, that no one owns it. We have been struggling with the issue of saying,
exactly.
In Uganda, for example, when we say, if we are promoting Luganda, then the other people will say, but we are not Baganda, because it has the owners. Swahili has no owner, at least English has the owner. but Swahili has no owner. So I think it's a language that can easily be spoken without connotations. That because you have spoken this, you meant this. No, it is a language that is self-explanatory, but also uniting. So for me, I think it's the right time. Now that the blocks of Africa coming together, it will be one of the issues that will help us to facilitate the faster communication, but also faster interaction within this.
And maybe this information, Comrade Jagenda, if we agree that Kiswahili as a language has in itself 30% Arabic words, or it is constituted 30% Arabic, then the better, in the sense that the rest of Africa who are Arabic speaking, even beyond
North Africa, for example.
Yes, should willingly...
They find it easier to come on board.
Exactly. Get the balance of the 70%.
Sure, yeah.
Even if they only got 20 and they make 50, and they spoke Swahili at 50% level, it's good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ndugu Ambassador, Dr. Mlima, come to the conversation again. I had an interaction with a very young child in one of our schools in Zambia here. And this little girl was at that time, I think, in primary 6 or 7. She could be coming of age now. She could be somewhere 15, 16. And I noticed she speaks about 4 languages in the house.
Right.
Now, because she's a daughter, because she's a daughter of a police officer, they speak some Kiswahili in the barracks. In the house, they speak the mother's language from northern Uganda.
Right.
When she's playing in the compound, they speak Luganda. And when they go to school, they actually speak in English.
Right.
Now, I just noticed that all the languages that she knows, she rides or drives at maybe 10% of each of anything. So she does not know her mother language. She does not know the language in school that they teach. She does not know the Kiswahili they speak in the barracks, and she does not know. And now we are talking about an infant who is growing, but scattered. She doesn't know whether to perfect English or to perfect Kiswahili or to perfect the mother language or to perfect the Luganda that they use for playing with the neighbors, etc., etc. What needs to be done? Because when you look at the continent of Africa, you will notice that we are English speaking, we are Franco, we are Francophone, we have Portuguese somewhere, then of course we have the Arabs in another block. When we get to the African Union, our documents are officially in English, Spanish, and I think in Portuguese also. These are the official communications. Whenever we
even Kiswahili.
Kiswahili is just coming on now. But has it been there?
It has been there because I've been involved with
okay, then I think that's another very good
that's
one.
208.
208.
Yeah, we had to translate.
That's indeed very good. That's indeed very good. Because you see, the pain is we have a dream, like you say, the African agenda. We say, this is where we want to see Africa in 2063. We tried implementing the Millennium Development Goals until 2015. We're now running with the SDGs. Now, how do we even understand the SDGs in Kiswahili? When we talk about SDGs, end hunger, end poverty, all these things, equal education, public health, whatever we talk about, what needs to be done to make sure that tunaanza with the grassroots, to now raise a generation that will appreciate this language and know, like you said, this is to identify as an African is we have an African language, which language is Kiswahili. I don't mind being a Muganda, I don't mind being a Musukuma or a Muhaya or whatever. Lakini there is this language that when I cross over and go to Kinondoni, when I cross over and go to Boma, if I go to Yei in Sudan, if I go to, I can blend with everybody in there.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me start with the issue of this infant who could speak a bit of every language. Yeah. Scientifically, it has been proved that kids before the age of 7 can learn up to 7 languages and be fluent with all of them. Boys can learn up to 5 languages. Girls can do well with 7 languages. That is a scientific. It has been scientifically proved. I have a case which I know very well. A Tanzanian lady who is she's a Pare. There is a tribe in Tanzania called Pare, This lady, she was married to a Norwegian guy in Sweden. They were living in Sweden. So the husband is a Norwegian. The wife is a Tanzanian speaking Kiswahili and Kipare. And they were living in Sweden, and this young girl, she was sent, the daughter of this family, she was sent to a Swedish school which were teaching them English and Swedish. And this young girl could speak 5 languages fluently. She could speak Swedish, because the father was only speaking to her or talking to her in Norwegian. The mother was talking to her only in Kiswahili and Pare.
And Pare.
And why she wanted to teach her Kipare, because if they go for holiday back in Tanzania, the people there in the village couldn't speak any English, couldn't speak any Swedish.
Exactly.
But they are very good at their local language, Kipare, and they could speak Kiswahili. So this lady, she was talking to her daughter in only these 2 languages, the father in Norwegian, and the daughter picked Kiswahili, Swedish and English. So she was fluent in 5 languages. And this young girl now, she must be in her 30s. Maybe 27, somewhere 27 or 28, around there. And the moment when they went to, Sangi, that's a place in Tanzania where they're coming from. She could speak Kipare like anybody else, with the accent, of course, a Swedish accent. But she could speak Kipare. So you find that kids, if you give them the opportunity, they'll learn all these languages. And I'm sure in Kenya, people speak Kiswahili. But they speak Kikuyu, they speak Luo, they speak all these other languages. So language doesn't replace another language.
Sure.
It just gives you the opportunity to have more languages to use. This young lady you referred to from the barracks, she could pick a bit of each language. Because why in the barracks, Kiswahili? Because it's a language which can bring together everybody in Uganda. You can be from the north, you can be from the west, you can be from the east, central. But, Kiswahili is the language which brings you together. Because if, assuming today, if the government decide that, okay, we speak Acholi in the Uganda Armed Forces, others will say, no way. Or we speak Kinyankole, or Baganda, is it? No, Kiganda, right?
Yes.
Kiganda. And, you'll find that people are kind of protesting. But if you have a language like the way it is now, Kiswahili, it brings in together everybody. So I think languages are very, very important as a tool of communication, a tool of unification, to bring everybody together. So that's why I think Kiswahili has that opportunity, even in Tanzania and other places. But also Kiswahili is a language of trade.
Yes.
If you look at the African map, since we are talking about Pan-African Friday today, if you look at the African map, especially the East African part, go through all the borders of East Africa: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC. And even I think, I bet even South Sudan can be the case. Mozambique also. Zambia, Malawi, Malawi and Zambia. All these borders with the African, Kiswahili-speaking countries in Africa, you find that people there speak some Kiswahili. Because it's the language which, you can trade, you can interact together, and you can do a lot of things together. And even here in Uganda, if you want to take that Uganda as an example, you go to Kyotera and all the way to Mutukula. Most people there speak Kiswahili. You go to eastern border with DRC there, you find most people speak Kiswahili. You go to Busia, Malaba, everybody there speak Kiswahili.
True.
Yeah, so it's a language which unites people and bring people together. Coming to this African Union, it's only that they recognized officially and made a pronouncement recently that Kiswahili is an official language. But back in the days, I was a personal assistant to former President Mkapa. He was a member of Legal Empowerment, a commission of the United Nations called Legal Empowerment of the Poor. And they came up with a report which we were supposed to go and present it at the African Union so that it can be adopted. It could be adopted by the African Union. And one of the conditions which we were given by the African Union, in order to present that report, it should be translated into the translated into the AU languages. So the UN had all those other languages, and it were translated because they had Portuguese, they had Arabic, they had English, they had French and Russian.
Yeah.
The UN report in Russian. I think they had 6 languages there. But the AU said, bring it Kiswahili also. Translate it in Kiswahili. And it was one Kenyan firm in New York, which translated that report into Kiswahili. So we tabled it in January 2008 at the summit in the AU. And it was adopted because then we fulfilled the condition of that AU requirement. So Kiswahili has been there. And if you remember, the first president to use Kiswahili in the AU summit was President Joaquim Chissano in 2002. So he's the one who said, why should we use these foreign languages?
Sure.
While we have our own languages here in Africa. And because we didn't have interpreter and translator at that particular time, President Chissano made his remark in Kiswahili, and he translated himself in English. So that the audience could follow. So Kiswahili is a Pan-African language, if I can put it that way. It's a Pan-African language. As my brother here said, there is 30–40% of other, Arabic and other influences. In Kiswahili, you find Portuguese, you find Arabic. Arabic is the dominant in terms of percentage. You have German words, you have English words.
Chiganda words.
Because it's African language.
Yes. Chiganda words
even the Nguni, the Zulu.
The Bantu.
Yeah, the Bantu.
Especially the Bantu.
Yeah.
Actually, from that, just before I let you go, you notice that we have about 89, about 90 Bantu groupings on the continent of Africa.
Right.
About 90 Bantu groupings on the continent of Africa. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 words here that we have some percentage of words that keep blending into ourselves. And just looking at that, if we appreciated and actually brought this language called Kiswahili into our midst and it rolled all over, where would we be? But you see, the most important thing is how do we, or how should we leverage on this language to get all this potential? For example, we've talked about how much mineral wealth Africa has. We've talked about all the things, the potential it is in. The other day when His Excellency, our President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, was addressing the State of the Nation address, when he was speaking to us during the State of the Nation address, he revealed to us some things. And of course he said, when you look at the global economies, Africa's economy is smaller than the economy of Britain, for example. We are only at $2.7 trillion. The UK is somewhere, I think, about 2-point-something trillion. And all those other economies are now combining the whole Africa. You are even less than one country called Britain, for example. And here is where we are. Then in that same speech, Yaka revealed to us and said, Uganda's gold wealth is up to about 13 trillion, did he say that? 13 trillion, which is bigger than the other economies, German, Spain, Italy, Japan, etc., etc.
It would actually make Uganda the richest country in the world.
Or even actually third, when America, China, then maybe Uganda comes in there. The mineral worth of the DRC, our neighbors here, would make the DRC the most, the economic power of. But all this potential is just kept right there, struggling for things that I don't think do us any good. The continent has an average age of about 60. Tanzania celebrated 60 years last year. Uganda is doing it this year. The other day, Rwanda, Burundi celebrated that. Kenya is coming on next year. Other countries, Ghana came a little ahead. And no, except for South Sudan, that is the new entrant. But all of us are 50 and above. And the countries, in that mean age. Many years later, we're still struggling with maybe speaking English, and we even actually find it a problem that if Jagenda is on TV here and he speaks a broken English word, it's what we'll train to actually say, I couldn't speak English rightly. But if I spoke broken Kiswahili, I would even, I think, be celebrated. Another very bad thing that who cares? Where are we, and what do we need to do to embrace this language, to develop our continent that our forefathers wanted to see?
Thank you very much for your interpretation of things and the question you posed to me. I think Africans, we as Africans, we as Pan-Africans, we need to go through the stages of independence. And the stages of independence, the first one is independence of mindset. And that happened to our forefathers when they were fighting for liberation of the continent, because they were liberated in their mind. They were independent thinkers. And then since they were independent thinkers, they could realize that we need to be independent, not to be governed by somebody else. So that was the first stage of independence, mindset. So then the likes of Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, and the rest, Kaunda and others, liberated their mind that we need to get these countries independent. That was the first stage. The second stage was the political independence. And it came about, and that's why Nyerere and others in the continent decided to support the liberation struggle. The third stage of independence is the independence of, the economic independence. But the economic independence comes with innovation and technological independence. The third stage is technological and innovation and technological independence. And once you have the technological and innovation independence, then you can have economic independence. And finally, financial independence. So these 5 stages, if we go through all of them, and if you are liberated, you liberated your mindset, the independence of mindset, you will definitely find a lingua franca which can unite all of you. And that's what Nyerere did. Because he realized that you have 120 tribes. How are you going to unite? And we have 51 countries in the continent. Why can't we use Kiswahili? If Kiswahili could unite 120 languages, tribal languages, and we have now one language in one country, why can't we unite the entire African continent using one language, which is not anybody can claim that it is their language. So liberation of mindset is the first stage development.
And the people need to remember that you come from Tanzania, you talk about Tanzania.
Yeah.
Even when Kiswahili united the 120 languages, you didn't lose Kipare. You didn't lose
Chaga, Chihaya, all the languages are there.
Sure.
So if we have all these 5 stages of independence, then today we are talking about Africa is poor. We could be definitely way up there. You see, we could be the donors to these other countries, because when you talk about technology, independence of technology and innovation, that means if we have minerals, we have gold, we have lithium, platinum, uranium, we could harvest it ourselves.
Vermiculite, etc.
We take it down there, we process it, and we sell to the global market.
We're already donors anyway.
But in a different way.
Yeah.
Did you even choose to donate?
Exactly.
So I think if we really want to go through these stages, we need to invest in our people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you invest in your people, and you'll definitely be able to become independent like anybody else.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Dr. Ziz Mlima, High Commissioner, Tanzania to Uganda. We thank you so much, and comrades here. It is our Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. We'll just take a break and return. When we come back, we still carry on with the conversation. We are talking about the Pan-African Friday and, of course, the language of Kiswahili as the language of Africa. Well, you can send us some messages if you so wish on one of our numbers, I think, which we'll get to share with you. If you want to talk back or ask a question or just give us your thoughts, I will see how that works out and it happens. We'll take a break and return.
Welcome to English in a Minute. This is a weasel. These wild animals are small and tricky.
Wow, Anna. Looks like you could use some help. Let me carry that.
Thanks, Jonathan. I can always count on you. Jessica, not so much.
She weaseled out of helping you again, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She's a weasel.
To weasel out of something means to successfully avoid doing something in a dishonest or clever way. This phrasal verb has a mostly negative meaning. You can also call someone a weasel, like Anna did. Some animals just have a bad reputation. And that's English in a Minute.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *149*10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *149*10*5#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *149*10# to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of 2022 is here! UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goat Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, HT Murecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Kigezi, Horo, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land with top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reikuga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar, and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
If I'm looking at issues of taxation and all that, I will definitely run for the Kateshumbas. Okay? Okay. If I look at, if I'm looking at issues of investments and what, I would definitely run. I would definitely run for Dr. Emure Kugonza and Honorable Omara. Okay. If I'm looking at issues of the law, I will run for our very, very own people. I have the Oboso Bosses, I have the Katuntus, I have the Robin Arwakojos. So everyone is talented in one way or another.
Did you mention Katuntu?
Okay. Yes.
Is he yours?
Yes, he is.
Yours as an NRM?
He is.
Was brought to you by
Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
The stage is a world of entertainment. Get the latest entertainment, lifestyle, events and activities. Chats with celebrities that make headlines.
It's your girl Zari, Mama Tifa. I'm in town, I'm in Uganda.
It's showbiz. Join me, Mary. I intend to connect you to a lot of fun. Cause I know you want it, you love it, you enjoy it. All on Power Flavor Magazine, reloaded for you right here on UBC. Don't miss out every Saturday, 12 p.m.
Well, thank you so much and welcome back from the break. We continue the conversation here of the Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka, and with me in studios is Ambassador Dr. Aziz Mlima, the High Commissioner for Tanzania here in Uganda, Ndugu James Mututa, the East African, and Ndugu Rugarama, the chairperson of the Pan-African Movement Uganda chapter, here with us to talk about this particular language here today. Ndugu Rugarama, let me come back to you just right there. To concretize this thing, we are talking development, and we seeing these things now. We first of all need to give ourselves time to appreciate, to accept, and of course to learn Kiswahili. When you hear the conversation in Uganda making the language compulsory, it just seems like somebody is imposing a language on us that we possibly shouldn't learn. And when you hear the conversations, it sounds like somebody is putting his or her burden onto us to either help him or do the thing. So we should actually refuse, because by learning Kiswahili, we are possibly helping somebody. What needs to be done, Ndugu Rugarama, to ensure that we may not, from a scientific study that Ambassador Dr. Mlima here gives to us, is we need to start with those who are below 7 to be able to actually learn these languages, and that they will have them forever. Many of us who are in this old age may not be able to maybe learn now. What needs to be done?
I want to believe that language can be learned at any stage of man's life. For instance, I can confidently tell you that in terms of listening and comprehending Kiswahili as a language, I am well over 70%. But in terms of talking, so you can see I just need a little push. Talking, ability to express myself in
you can
Swahili.
be instructed and understand the instructions.
You see, absolutely, very well. You sit here, talk, I will pick well over 70% of what you are talking about. But I will reply to you not in Kiswahili. Now, you can see that missing link. If I am to express myself, I don't think I can go above 40%, maybe 30 something. Now, what we are having, but let me not lose the ambassador's point. The ambassador's point, which I would want to, with his permission, elaborate on, is the issue of ideological clarity, to be able to liberate the mind. You see, all these troubles we are having is because we have regressed. Our forefathers, the Comrade Kwame Nkrumahs, the Samora Machels, the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere's, the Kenneth Kaundas, all that group, Abdul Gamar Nassas, who had clarity of mind of where they wanted Africa to be. We seem to have regressed, that we have gradually lost that breed. We do have, yes, I'm not saying we completely don't have, but we are on a decline. We do not have that breed, the crop of leaders who knew where Africa should go. And that didn't mean that the obstacles were off the way. The obstacles were there. If anything, by the way, during that time, the obstacles were visible, and they were visible, practical. They were there, like you were under direct colonialism. But they made up their mind, they focused, they said, this is where we want to go. 1963, Organization of African Union comes into place against so many forces. So much of the geographical Africa was not liberated. They made that one their mission, and they achieved it. Now, what we are having, and particularly in Uganda, I think is a problem of not being consistent. You see, it is some years ago that Uganda developed and talked about, not developing, they talked about having Kiswahili in schools, and that it is going to be compulsory. Some years ago. Actually, there was even a thought that we can have mass recruitment of Kiswahili teachers. Then we retool them. You know, we have got colleges, and where the accords, comrade accords come from. These colleges, the NTCs, which teach Swahili, they are there. In other words, almost every year, our colleges here in Uganda churn out teachers to go and teach Kiswahili in schools. It is just yesterday when I was listening again to the Minister for Information and National Guidance, Dr. Baryomunsi, that now we have made it compulsory, and I didn't hear the timelines. Probably those of you who could have picked the timelines, you can remind me for the benefit of our audience, made it compulsory. That is against the heels of having pointed out science teachers to be given preferential treatment. Now, Kiswahili is not a science, if you like, so to say. What will happen now? What interest are you going to give the epithets that you are going to give the Kiswahili teachers, that you go and, because you are rolling out a program which government has convinced itself is very paramount in the ethos of the East African community. We are talking about promoting the spirit of East Africanism. If we must, therefore, promote the spirit of East Africanism, integration, we bring in the component of teaching Kiswahili right from primary, that it is taught and examinable, and it is compulsory. Do we have enough teachers? If we do not have enough teachers, those who are available, are they motivated? Those we can easily recoup and retool. What is the catalyst? What is the motivation that we are giving them, so that we can have quick, thorough, effective results in this area? So you see, when we do not become consistent as a country. And this doesn't only play out in Uganda. I think it is the general disease that we have on the African continent. Consistency and focus. You know, that's why these big cats are very successful, even if it is a herd of buffaloes or antelopes. When a lion or a leopard focuses, it just focuses on one, and it will not go picking on different, that now this one has left me, I'm going to grab the other one. No, the focus is on one, and it will run until it grabs that particular antelope. Now, if we are saying that in the spirit of East African integration, we are going to emphasize and make compulsory the teaching of Kiswahili in schools right from primary, let us do everything humanly possible to redirect part of our budget, have the political will and energy to make sure that we make this particular agenda a success. Let us not again wait for another 4 years to go on television, this time it will not be Barrio Munsi, to tell us that now cabinet has decided that it is going to make Kiswahili compulsory in schools, examinable, and also, you know, Ugandans, because I have been, when you move, I'm glad that he said that in his statement. When you move to Chigari, for instance, even in the park, you're in the park. You're not. Don't take the international airport and what have you. You know, sometimes you have to go down there and see. In the park itself, you will meet the Rwandese who are speaking Kiswahili. A good number of them. Go to Burundi. Right from the bus park, in the markets, Kiswahili, and they are okay. They are trading, like we have correct observed here. But you go to Yakiseka down here. You go to Karerwe down and begin a conversation in Kiswahili and say how successful you will get. So there has to be that spirit. Yes, I appreciate the efforts that we can go formal, but there is also demand that we need to go into some of the informal structures and emphasize the element of this language if we must be in tandem with the rest of our sister neighbors.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Now, concerns are coming in here. Somebody says, I am enjoying the discussion on Kiswahili language. I am personally a teacher of Kiswahili from primary to university. Thank you, gentlemen, for the show. Anyone in need of my services on the subject, I am very available for my country. Now we have one. I actually heard they said we need about 20,000 teachers of Kiswahili language. We need about 20,000 teachers. Now there is one here. You've not shared your name though. You've not shared your name.
But I shared the number. So
yeah, you shared the number. He's not shared the name, but nonetheless, thank you very much. He's a teacher of Kiswahili, and he says good conversation, and that's why I am. Somebody here says, good morning, Pan-African members and the ambassador. A few minutes back, UBC played an advert of English in a minute. Imagine if we could change that to Kiswahili, 2 minutes, as a way of UBC pushing and encouraging the viewers to learn. Asante sana, Daudi. And I think just made that observation. So someone said a few minutes ago. Then the viewer is actually very attentive and says, what about if we turn that advert into learning Kiswahili? And maybe you've, Daudi, thank you. You've just given us an idea that we need to maybe now make some adverts running on TV of how to learn Kiswahili, and we have very good Kiswahili teachers here. Kola Mazima, kuna Siraje Kariango, kuna Bella Masangano, and quite a number of there are quite a number of those who actually do a Kiswahili bulletin in the evening at I think 5:45 thereabout every day. So tunaye walimu wazuri hapa wa Kiswahili. tazani tutazungumza Kiswahili. Somebody here says, hello, thank you so much for the program, and he's of course not shared his name. Now, just send messages, don't call the number that you see on your screen. It will only take conversations on WhatsApp. Not necessarily picking calls, just what it is. Okay, we'll look at several others and of course the many that are still coming in here. It's about the African language. Which language is actually Kiswahili? Now, remember, yesterday is when we celebrated the very first time the day of Kiswahili. It's called the World Kiswahili Language Day. And amazingly, I think this is the only language that UN celebrates. We do not have any other day in the world that is, there is no World English Day, Language Day. There is no World Spanish Language Day. There is no World, I think, Portuguese Day. It's only Kiswahili. And is it affirmative action? What does that also mean to us? Because somebody may say, you know, when you get...
After all.
Yeah, after all, why would English have a special day? It's English every day. So by giving us a day, isn't it also a little derogative, or is some affirmative action in it, Balozi?
Well, I think it's the international community has realized that Kiswahili is a language of importance. And since it has been used by many speakers, around over 200 million in Africa, but also total globally about 500 million people. Then it has got some element to be recognized. That's why they dedicated a special day for it. But of course, initially there are some efforts from Swahili-speaking community. The governments of Tanzania introduced that topic, and I think it was supported by other Swahili speakers, the Kenya and others, and it got that day in the UNESCO. So it's a common effort, combined effort by Swahili speakers, and I think it's a good thing that it has happened. That we have a special Kiswahili day around the world. But just a minor correction on what we have discussed. Initially I said a kid up to the age of 7 is capable of learning fluently. Fluently. 5 languages for the boys? For a boy, 7 languages for a girl. And that one with the native accent. But a kid can learn any language up to the age of 12, and then they will speak with accent.
Yes.
Up to the age of 12 you speak, no, up to the age of 12 you speak with the accent. But anybody can learn language easily up to the age of 25. But above age of 25 you learn language, but your initial language will be very dominant. Your mother tongue will be very dominant. So one may find it a bit difficult to learn new language and to be able, just like my brother here have said, that you'll be able to speak, to learn the language, speak, write and everything 100%. That will go down maybe to 70%. But you can learn a new language at any age, even if you are 75, 80. Just like nowadays you can see people are doing their PhD when they are 80 years old. There are such people. It's possible. Yeah, and somebody at the age of 47 goes to primary school to learn how to read and write and then finish the primary school education. So learning, you can do it at any age, as long as you have the will to do so. Since we are talking about Kiswahili, you know, Kiswahili has different versions. There's, if you hear a Kenyan speak, you know that this guy is come from Kenya.
You can actually tell.
Yeah.
When you hear from Congo, you
Congolese, they speak Kiswahili.
Even Uganda. When a Ugandan speaks Kiswahili, you can actually tell they're from Uganda.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Kiswahili has a common ownership. Everybody can claim that Kiswahili is, you know, is their language, as long as you have that willingness to accept it. But I know it's not an easy task. There are others who will definitely try to find ways to say, oh, you know, we don't have this, we don't have that. Like now, I've noticed that we say, okay, in order to be able to, based on the cabinet decision here in Uganda, that in order to move forward, you need 20,000 teachers. It's a process. If you dedicate one university to take in more teachers, and in a few years,
exactly.
In a few years
like we have science universities, science of Mbara University of Science and Technology. We have those that teach sciences to get more doctors and you know medical specialists.
Exactly. So you'll have more teachers of Kiswahili, but also the media house like yourself. You have a very key role to play. You know, the moment when you establish maybe a program of 12 hours every day in Kiswahili with the UBC. If anybody wants to learn Kiswahili, will tune in UBC. After, it doesn't take years. You will find after 2 years, kids in the streets, even those ones who haven't been able to go to school to start their academic, academic journey in primary one, they'll be able to pick some language from the radio if the radio is available. So the newspapers can also have a special, you see like here we have all the English newspaper and other local languages. But if you have a printed newspaper every day in Kiswahili, people will have access to so many material to use to learn Kiswahili. So I think since the government has decided, that's just my personal thought. If you have a program in the radio and television in Kiswahili, anybody can tune it any time. And if you have printed media in Kiswahili, and the social media also, your websites have columns and articles in Kiswahili, it will be quite easy. Yeah, people will not run out from the material to use to learn the language.
Okay. Ndugu Rugarama talked about bringing this into the African agenda. Ndugu Mututa, let me come to you here. And we're now talking about the fourth industrial revolution. And the condemnation to ourselves is we missed the first, the second, the third. Now, where do we find ourselves in the fourth? Now, because it's here, now this industrial revolution is not going to be backtracked. It's on and on. And we think that maybe in the next 5 years, we shall have moved so much into artificial intelligence and of course, the digital world. Where do we see Kiswahili in these interventions? Because now that's where the world has moved to, and we're also now coming on with our Kiswahili. So where do we see our good Kiswahili language as our own language also helping us run with the rest of the world in achieving the fourth, or being one of the drivers in that revolution?
We are now running at the innovation stage, which should have actually been far back, because Africa, when you look at what is written, you realize that Africa was the cradle
of civilization.
Of civilization. So our innovation started way back before the world could learn how even to ride a bicycle. But over time, because again issues of the language, we were not able to have a lot of documentation about our innovations, about our history. In fact, no wonder it is distorted. Most of the things that are written about what we know about ourselves, actually, we are reading these things from other writers, from other people, from other languages. Now, our literature is that bad, and a lot of things in Africa have actually died out. When they talk of our iron making, when we talk of our trading, when we talk, most of these things are not written in our languages. So we have that stage to the gap to fill. But also when you look at it, even innovation alone, the thinking has to be, you think an idea comes, but it comes in a language that you understand. That you are able to think of making something, but that something has to have a name to it. And that name comes in well when it is in your language. Then think of making a vehicle, but you don't even have it in your name, in your language. Trying to make a plane, which you don't even have in your... So that is one thing that we need to appreciate, that language is very important. not only for purposes of identification, but also for purposes of advancement, that you are able to think and act in that particular thinking, but also in the language that you use. So when we look at Africa, part of our problem has been that we are thinking in English, but want to do things
in our local languages.
In our local languages. Or where the vice versa. So that becomes a bit tricky. But when we learn our own languages, that we are able to think and act in those languages, then our innovation will be more, will move at the same pace with the world. Now, we have in this, on this planet schools where they take these children because there is a talent that has been identified in them. Now, for us, we are taking our children to school to go and study so that they can have the same talent with those people who have those talents. Now, that is a disconnect, that we are not promoting what we have, but we are trying to learn to promote what we even don't have. And yet, there is a lot that Africa has. So by using our local languages and people doing things in the way they understand, we'll be able to promote innovation, but also the talent that we have. We are talking about people who can do a lot of things because that's what they have seen other people do, or this is what they have seen their forefathers do. But when it comes to doing them, they cannot do them because they need to go and study to be able to come back and do that. We are losing out, especially in areas of African medicine, which has been very key and strong. We are now trying to go and learn what others are doing so that we can be, and we don't even come back to put the same ideas, because when you see most of our doctors, not many people are now involved in the research. They are involved more in the practice, the end result of what they have learned, than getting back to research. Of course, people will say our governments are not supporting them and the rest, but the idea which Nduku Rugarama said is that orientation, that ideological, or disorientation rather, that we are ideologically disoriented. And the mindset is key, that we need now to get back to have a right mindset, that the right mindset will be informed by the right language that we are using, and the right language will now also be hinged on the thinking that we are using. So once all those small tenets are put together, then we have an embodiment of a person who is outright thinking. Say, this is what we need to achieve, but how can we achieve it without using our own language? We need to use our language as the basic tool to be able to achieve whichever science, whichever technology, whichever innovation that we can undertake.
Ndugu Rugarama, thank you so much, Ndugu Mtuta. So some people, and I think Dr. Mlima talked about it and said, language should not replace language. One language should not take away the other. And this is actually the perception that most people have, that by promoting Kiswahili, we are trying to supplant the power languages. The power languages, now you talk about Africa as a continent, 27 countries where the official language is English, about 21 with French. So they've entrenched themselves, established themselves, and these are power languages. So when you promote Kiswahili, it seems to some people as though we want to supplant the traditional colonial languages from us, and of course bring on Kiswahili. You talked about the statistics. You gave us statistics in countries like Nigeria. One of, I think it's not actually, but Africa's most populated country. The Yoruba themselves, about 50% speak Yoruba when you go to Nigeria. Now, in a population of about 200 million people, that's about 25% of those. Where do we get the resources and the political goodwill to ensure that we actually market this language to the rest of Africa? Even when you talk about almost 200 million people who speak this language, but the concentration is, they are scattered everywhere. You go to North Africa, predominantly it's Arabic. You talked about Arabic. Even if they only bring 30% of Arabic and another 20% of Kiswahili to that, then we'll be good to go. The resources and the political goodwill of really making this language, the African language, a lingua franca for the continent? Where do you envisage that?
The good news is that Kiswahili is already one of the major languages at the African Union. And there are growing voices on the African continent, right from the East African bloc going upwards and almost covering, because I didn't know that even in some parts of Cameroon, there are elements of Kiswahili there as a language. Comoros was talked about here. Now, these are not countries which are just across the neighborhood here. The lower part of Zambia, etc., etc. So you can see that apart from our bigger platform, the African Union, having made matters lighter for us, then we have got extended goodwill. You can find, for instance, now in a country like South Africa, the political voices, the Julius Marema and the group, they are all floating the idea of Kiswahili as a language. Recently, not long ago, a majority of the South African universities, I think, the education system, they have adopted it and they are promoting its teaching. So we are not going to be starting from nowhere. There is already a very good starting point where the Kiswahili as a language is going to be promoted. But what is also critical is what we have just discussed here, that there is usually a feeling that this is somebody's language, not my language. Good news, again, is that nobody can really, for sure, say Kiswahili is our language. This is ours and the other tribes, because that is what the imperialists and the former colonialists, now imperialists, reduced African tribes to. You see, to start thinking in terms of my tribe, my clan, such that even when Kiswahili comes up, there will be a tendency of people who do not want to accept the truth to tag it to, for instance, Tanzanians. But the ambassador here has told you, and information available shows you that there are more than 150 tribes
in Tanzania.
In Tanzania. But all of them managed to sacrifice a bit of their importance to Kiswahili as a language.
Actually, to just chip in on that, you notice that if you randomly asked anybody in East Africa here, the tribe of President Nyerere, no, President Uhuru,
yes,
in Kenya, they'll tell you he's Kikuyu.
Absolutely.
When you ask them the tribe of President Kagame, they will tell you.
Absolutely.
When you ask them the tribe of the Ugandan president, everybody will actually tell you.
I do not know any tribe.
When you ask them the tribe of the president of Tanzania, they will say him Swahili. Nobody will be able to actually tell you where the late Pombe Magufuli belonged, or former presidents Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete or Mama Samia Suluhu now. They will not tell you whether Mama Samia Suluhu is
I am one of them.
You
I
know?
can tell you. And I do not take that one as a form of ignorance. I think that one is a plus to our brothers and sisters in Tanzania, that I find it not important even to get to know where Mrisho Kikwete comes from. Of what importance is that?
Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere.
Yes, absolutely. To start with,
Zanakole ask them which tribe did he belong to in Tanzania. Nobody will be able to tell you
if it
that.
was not even for Uganda Matters, which is time when I wouldn't even tell you the tribe of the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere.
Exactly.
I mean the religion. I wouldn't. But you see, that, in my opinion, and to every progressive-minded person, is a Pan-African thing, is something that we should really applaud the comrades from Tanzania for. The ability to sacrifice these little things that the white man had propped up to use against the unity of the African man. For them, they have been able to make sure that they put that one down, not necessarily killing, no. Put it down, develop the bigger picture. The point I want to bring out here again is that we must be on the lookout. You see, when the white man realized how important language is during slavery, he made sure that once the slave man, the able-bodied man, I hate calling them slaves because all they captured able-bodied men and women and made them slaves. So they were not slaves. You know, the slave comes into effect the moment they reach that stolen land, the Americas. Because even the people who are in America themselves, they stole that land. It was not theirs. But they don't want to say that. When they come up and they say, we, the people of America, they are looking at themselves. This is the French, the English, the Germans who are gathered there.
Did you expect them to preach religion?
Absolutely. So those ones, absolutely, it becomes a big problem. So the point I'm making is that somebody who captures another human being realizes the importance of the language. You must have watched a good number of films, and they were making sure that they zip up their mouth, using very crude means, by the way, to stop communication. So they know that they knew then, like they know now, the power behind a common language. They also knew the power behind somebody's beliefs. That is why they made sure that not only did they stop the communication, but they also killed the language, they also killed the religious beliefs. What do you believe in? And they introduced Christianity. I do not want to run into trouble with Christians, but I want to state that we must look at religion with a very keen interest. We must, like my senior brother Joshua Maponga says, we must question Christianity. You see, the point is that we are at a level, we are at a point where some of these things introduced to us, including Christianity, including languages, are not meant for our own good. And that one we know very well. Now that there is an opportunity that has come up in Kiswahili as a language, and it is gaining currency, we have always complained about multiple currency in terms of this is the financial liberation that the ambassador was talking about as the last stage. You see, how are you going to attain that when you have not attained the ideological clarity? How are you going to attain the financial?
That's the last floor,
yes.
But you've not built the ground floor.
The foundation is problematic.
Yeah.
So it becomes a problem.
So you can't
that
have the last floor up there.
Absolutely. So that's why when I come up and say, here is a project called Swahili language, which is a unifying factor, that if we adopted it and accelerated its attainment, we would be doing a Pan-African thing and going ahead in a realization of even the African Union 2063 agenda.
Sure.
We have a problem that those, our enemies, who were there as colonialists, now present as imperialists, have not lost sight of our positive strides to liberate ourselves from the shackles which they have made sure that they craft around us. We must therefore, by way of concluding on this, know, one, that in order to achieve and emancipate ourselves, we must have a language that unites us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Constance here coming in. How can I learn more about Kiswahili? Now, there's a concern here. Balozi, you are so far the owner of Kiswahili here, so someone wants to learn Kiswahili and they want to know. Tuna walimu hapa, their calls and all the others. You keep in touch with us. Another one here says, Kiswahili is welcome to Uganda as a lingua franca. It will help Ugandans with regional integration. And this is what somebody says here. Another says, hi Pan-Africanists, I love your program. Teaching Kiswahili is okay, but the target should be to be able to use Kiswahili as a medium of learning. To be able, for example, use Kiswahili in teaching chemistry. That should be the target. Mafabi, P-A-D-E-P. Okay, that's what Mafabi says. Did you understand him? Teaching Kiswahili is okay, but the target should be to use Kiswahili as a medium of learning. To be able, for example, to use Kiswahili in teaching other subjects like chemistry. Of instruction. A medium of instruction.
I hope he's not talking about one who was saying that if now that the science thing, they should teach chemistry in chemistry.
Where? Teach chemistry in chemistry and you see how you can actually do that.
That is frustrating.
Okay, thank you very much. Somebody here says, thank you so much for the Pan-African Friday show. It's a wonderful show. Another here says, greetings to Mheshimiwa Ambassador Azizi. I am Tusime Mwebesa of Kigo. Wamekusalimia Ambassador Balozi. Somebody here says, I am teacher Francis from Bukedea district. Now the other person who sent, and I say he didn't send us his name, he clarifies and says he's a teacher from Bukedea district, and Bukedea is the district where the speaker comes from, isn't it? Okay, so we have one out of 20,000, and like you said, it's in phases. Yeah. We already have one who does not even need to be taken back to university. Kiswahili is an African language because it's got these grassroots in African dialects. So we need to embrace it. That's what somebody here says. Another person here says, kusoma Kiswahili, kusoma Kiswahili iko mzuri sana, kusoma ya kuhisimu, sio mwisho ya elimu na lima ni hakiba. Na katiba, the words here disappeared. Okay. Thank you so much. Now, somebody's already ahead of all the others. He's into Kiswahili. Another person here says, Shalom. I highly appreciate the program and the government. How do I even participate? Okay, this is one way of participation, and you've actually participated that way. And somebody here says, haja gani kuzungumza Kiingereza na nisiku kuindisha lugha ya Kiswahili? Mimi ni Julius wa Bugwe kutoka Mbale. Why would we even discuss Kiswahili and we are using Kiingereza?
No, we're explaining.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't make sense.
Exactly. It wouldn't make sense.
Yes.
We are trying to explain. So it's not that it's just to make sense. We are talking about the language that we need, and it's not, I think, a bad thing for us to speak in English when we are promoting Kiswahili. Thank you so much.
He's targeting Rugarama, you know.
Okay.
No, generally speaking, it wouldn't make sense.
No, it
really.
wouldn't make sense. Yeah. Somebody here says, thank you so much for approving Kiswahili language. Only Buganda and Ankole will suffer adopting it because of the attitude of their languages. We in the North will do our best. Sara Kalulu. He says the problem will possibly be in Uganda and Ankole, but the rest of Ugandans are actually very ready. Good morning. Kiswahili was adopted in 2005 5 as a national language when the 1995 was amended. It has taken over 15 years to think of its implementation. We need to be serious. Nduguru Garama emphatically submitted. See below the extract from the Constitution. Okay, thank you very much. This is from Honorable Perez Ahabwe. He's a former member of Parliament. We just talked about that. The official language. The article, I think, talked about chapter 4, but it's, article 4, but it's article 6 that talks about our official languages. Okay, the other one talks about how to interpret, to translate the Constitution into the languages. Good morning, gentlemen. I am happy we're discussing Kiswahili as an African language. I am Nigerian, and at primary school level, we were told Kiswahili is the African language, and no one talked about it again. Happy to hear it coming up again. I hope we can concentrate and see it through. Regards. Changing to Kiswahili is not going to be an overnight thing. If Rwanda can change from the French to English in 10 years, we too can do also over time of 10 years. We need patience and consistency. Thank you so much. Now, this is from a Nigerian who says, when you were studying in primary school in Nigeria, they were told actually Kiswahili is the African language. Good morning, children of Africa. I am enjoying your discussion. This is the beginning of inculcating the spirit and the sense of togetherness, especially in the East African region. I believe the AU Agenda 2063 will come to reality. Now it's our responsibility to go down the various institutions and open up Pan-African clubs. I saw that the young children are able to pick and understand the sense of belonging to togetherness. I believe we can. Otherwise, I thank you so much for the program. United we stand, and divided we perish and fall. Asante sana. Now, thank you very much. Another here says, my name is Echima. My name is Echima Pascas from Adjumani. Good morning, Pan-Africans. Okay, I had sent the message before we had read the message, but he didn't send his name. And just for clarity there, it's really interesting of how the government seems to be far from its ministries. The Minister of Education seemed to be shocked about it, and it went on to testify that he has no plans to examine it. What a shame. Now, we... it's incredible. Wow. Very incredible. But I think we need to close the conversation, and we carry on. You just now know how Kiswahili is badly needed by many of us. Our time is running out. Good morning, I'm James from Lira, but how do I learn about this language? James in Lira wants to learn Kiswahili. Okay, Kiswahili is here for us, and that's where we'll be. Having a good discussion is having riches. Thank you so much for the rich program, and thank you so much for the rich program. How so amazing to have a connecting language with Black African for a rich Africa. I am Alan. That's what it says. You know, we are a rich continent, and not using our riches. Okay, Kanyesha here says, hello, Kiswahili, like other languages, can be learned. Kapchorwa has very good Kiswahili speakers. Thank you very much, Kanyesha, in Kiswahili. There's a message I'm looking at here where somebody says, the ambassador has just encouraged me. It is not late for me to learn the language. I'm missing the message, but somebody says, I am approaching 40, but I've just been encouraged by...
This one is young.
Oh, yes. He says, the ambassador has encouraged me that I can actually learn this language even after 40. And so somebody says he's going to do it. Yeah, the attitude alone. I'm trying to look for that message. I read it somewhere here. Good morning, Pan-Africans. I appreciate the program. Kiswahili is a very good language. Thank you so much. And I am honest. I think that's a name. I am honest or honest. Chigondo from Chiriandongo district. Thank you very much. Also appreciating us. Oh, I just can't find that message, dear. But somebody says, well, but I saw your message. He says, I thought I can't, but the ambassador has just let us know that it's possible to learn Kiswahili even when I'm approaching 40. He knows that he still can, and he actually will. do it and ensure that he gets there. So that's it. We have just 2 minutes to be out of studios. Ndugu Rugarama, say your final bit. You see how the Kiswahili discussion has actually caused traction from different persons. Ndugu Rugarama, just sum it up.
I simply want to state that this time around, I hope that our government is very serious about what it has come up with, and that the statement that was made by the Minister of Information and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, is something that the government is going not just to stop at stating on media, but also going to implement. It takes commitment and result.
Okay, thank you. Ndugu Mututa, the East African.
Yeah, it is important. Actually, it goes to beyond East Africa, like we said. Have many Mututas in Zambia. But the most important thing is especially when you look at the issue of the East African community, and we have said this a number of times, that the people themselves are running ahead even of the government. While we are talking of doing this, people are already doing that at individual level. So I think learning the language shouldn't wait for government only. Let people learn. Okay. You don't need to go to school to learn Swahili, definitely.
Okay, as the ambassador concludes here, somebody says, greetings from Golden Frank. I am so happy with this move towards Swahilizing Uganda. Kiswahili itafungua market ya nchi yetu ndani ya Africa. As a youth, I will do my best to teach my fellows in my community the Kiswahili that I know through music and dance. Golden Frank, a Kiswahili youth pioneer. Thank you very much. Tafadhali wewe. And of course somebody here says, habari nimepata nambari kutoka telefoni ya UBC. Kabisa, ungetuma message yako na hata tumepata message yako. He says he just got the number from the TV, which is also very commendable and very good. Thank you so much for the program. Now, is it science teachers who are going to teach it because they are going to get enough money? I know that will come up. No, this is from somebody. Is it the science teachers who are going to teach?
I know that will come up.
These are the priorities we are talking about.
Balozi, your final comments.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's the will. To learn. That's the key. And of course, the political will is already there. So it's just a matter of interpretation. In South Africa, the government decided a few years ago that they are going to introduce Kiswahili in their curricula, in the primary school and secondary school. The Congolese Swahili speakers are teaching now Kiswahili in South Africa. Kenyans are teaching Kiswahili in South Africa. 2 days ago, the Minister of Education of South Africa was in Dar es Salaam to sign an MOU to get Kiswahili teachers from Tanzania. So it can be done.
Jobs are people are getting jobs.
Exactly.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, but even interpretation at the most at the higher level. Also jobs.
Well, asante sana, Balozi Dr. Aziz Ponari Mlima, High Commissioner of Tanzania to Uganda. Thank you so much. Tunakushukuru sana all the time that we need you. Tunakupigia simu na unabali kukuja. Karibu sana, and jua hata UBC hapa ni kwako, ni nyumbani. Afrika Mashariki ni kwetu, and that's how we are. Karibu ndugu Rugarama, thank you very much. And ndugu Mututa for being with us. Call Monday has not been with us, but of course following the conversation where he is. We'll stop this year, but just let you know that next on the agenda is Michael Jordan Lukomwa, who is coming on with a discussion with members of the Ugandan National Association of the Blind. So we just implore you that as we leave our studios, stay tuned to Michael Jordan Lukomwa with another conversation there with the National Association of the Blind in this country. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka, just wishing all the best. Hujambo, we thank you so much, and to just remind you that Afrika Mashariki ni kwetu. For God and my country, stay blessed. Good morning. Thank you, people.
Of the day on UBC.
If I'm looking at issues of taxation and all that, I will definitely run for the Kateshumbas. Okay? if I look at, if I'm looking at issues of investments and what, I would definitely run. I would definitely run for Dr. Emure Kugonza and Honorable Omara. Okay. If I'm looking at issues of the law, I will run for our very, very own people. I have the Oboso Bosses, I have the Katuntus, I have the Robin Arwakojos. So everyone is talented in one way or another.
Did you mention Katuntu?
Okay. Yes.
Is he yours?
Yes, he is.
Yours as in NRM?
He is.
Was brought to you by Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.